Namah Shivaya Shantaya, Karunavatarine, Pashunam Pataye Nityam, Linga Rupaya Te Namaha. As the Purva Bhaga of the Linga Purāṇa continues to unfold, the teachings begin moving into increasingly deeper waters. Earlier chapters spoke about devotion, remembrance, worship, and the lives of great devotees. But now, the Linga Purāṇa begins asking a more fundamental question. Who is Mahadev truly? Not what does he do, or not what powers does he possess, but what is the ultimate reality that all the sages call Śiva? The sages ask this very question, and the answer they receive is one of the most profound teachings in the entire Linga Purāṇa. Different sages, philosophers, and spiritual traditions describe Lord Śiva in different ways. Some call him the witness dwelling within all beings. Others call him the creative power from which the universe emerges. Some see him as the manifest world itself, while others describe him as time, the mysterious force through which everything is born, grows, changes, and eventually passes away. At first, these descriptions may seem different, sometimes even contradictory, but the Linga Purāṇa makes an important point. The names differ, the philosophies differ, the language differs, yet they're all pointing toward the same reality. Human beings often become attached to words and concepts. One tradition speaks of Brahman, another speaks of Atman, another speaks of Purusha, another speaks of Śiva, but the truth itself remains unchanged by the labels used to describe it. It is the same like different rivers may have different names, yet they all eventually flow into the same ocean. Again and again, the Linga Purāṇa returns to this insight. Some see Mahadev as the source from which creation emerges. Some see him as the cosmic witness. Some see him as the intelligence holding the universe together. And others see him as the universe itself. The perspectives differ, but the reality, that remains the same. To explain this mystery, the Linga Purāṇa offers a beautiful image. A necklace appears to be made of many separate jewels, yet hidden behind every jewel is a thread holding them together. And without that thread, the necklace would fall apart. Though unseen, it supports everything. In the same way, existence appears divided into countless beings, objects, experiences, and worlds. Yet, beneath the surface, there is a single reality silently connecting everything. And that hidden thread is Mahadev. The teaching then turns inward. Most of us identify ourselves with our thoughts, emotions, memories, achievements, and failures. We say this is who I am. But the Purana asks a deeper question. Who is aware of those thoughts? Who witnesses those emotions? And who remains present while the body changes and the years pass? Something within us remains unchanged through every stage of life. The child changes, the adult changes, the body changes, the mind changes. Yet, the simple feeling of I am remains. The sages identify that witnessing presence as Mahadev himself. The Linga Purāṇa then explores the three states through which every human being passes: the waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. In waking, we experience the outer world. In dreams, we experience an inner world created by the mind. And in deep sleep, even those experiences disappear. Yet, something remains present through all three states. Otherwise, how could we later say, I slept peacefully? the Linga Purāṇa points toward that unchanging awareness that remains present through every experience. And then it hints at something even deeper. Beyond waking, beyond dreaming, beyond sleep, there is a fourth state, a state of pure awareness where all divisions dissolve, a state where the seeker and the sought become one. Many traditions call this liberation. The Linga Purāṇa calls it the realization of Mahadev. Every remaining separation begins to dissolve. Lord Śiva is described as the doer, the action, the instrument, and the result. He is the knower, the process of knowing, the object that is known, and the knowledge itself. What appears separate is revealed to be expressions of a single reality. To illustrate this, the Linga Purāṇa offers another beautiful metaphor. The waves rise upon the ocean. Some are large, some are small, some last longer than others. Yet, every wave remains nothing but water. The forms differ, but the essence remains the same. Likewise, the countless beings, worlds, experiences, and forces that populate existence appear different, but beneath those differences lies one reality, Mahadev. Yet after revealing the highest truth, the Linga Purāṇa asks a practical question. If Lord Śiva is the deepest reality of existence, how does the seeker prepare himself to realize that truth? The answer is beautiful in simplicity. True worship does not begin at the altar. It begins within. The teachings describe sacred baths, mantras, offerings, visualizations, and acts of purification. At first glance, they seem highly ritualistic, but beneath the ritual language lies a profound spiritual principle. Before approaching the divine, one must gradually transform one's own consciousness. The devotee begins by cleansing the body with earth and water. Symbolically, this points towards something much deeper than physical cleanliness. Human beings gather fears, anxieties, attachments, and countless impressions throughout life. Just as dust settles upon the body, impurities settle upon the mind. The ritual bathing becomes our outer reflection of an inner cleansing. The devotee is not merely washing the body. We are preparing the mind, preparing the heart, and preparing awareness itself. Linga Purāṇa places great emphasis on the worship of the sun. This is significant because the sun represents visible divinity. Every living being depends upon it. It nourishes life, sustains the season, ripens crops, and silently supports existence itself. Yet, the sun here is not merely a celestial object. It becomes a symbol of spiritual illumination. Just as sunlight removes darkness from the outer world, wisdom removes darkness from within. Ignorance gradually gives way to clarity. Confusion gives way to understanding. Forgetfulness gives way to remembrance. The seeker begins recognizing the divine presence that has always sustained life. The Linga Purāṇa also speaks of nyasa, the placing of sacred mantras upon different parts of the body. Symbolically, this transforms the way the seeker views himself. The body is no longer merely flesh and bone. It becomes a sacred field, a living temple, a place where divine consciousness may be recognized and honored. Slowly, the distinction between worshipper and worshipped begins to soften. The seeker begins with his own body, then expands into nature, then into the cosmos, and finally into the divine presence permeating everything. The journey begins with ritual, but it ends with recognition. The the recognition that the entire universe is sacred, that every element of existence participates in the divine, that Mahadev is present not only in temples and sacred images, but in the sun, the earth, the breath, the heart, and the silent awareness through which all experience is known. And then the Linga Purāṇa takes one final step. Even after realizing the sacredness of life, one attachment still remains, the attachment to oneself. It is here that we encounter one of the most extraordinary teachings in the entire Purvabhaga, Jīvacchrāddha, a sacred rite performed while one is still alive. In simple terms, Shraddha is traditionally a ceremony performed after a person's death. But Jīvacchrāddha reverses that idea. Instead of waiting until death comes, the seeker symbolically performs the rite for himself while still living. The purpose is not physical death. The purpose is spiritual freedom. It is a way of consciously letting go of attachments, ego, and false identities before life itself forces us to do so. In many ways, it is a practice of learning how to die to the ego while remaining fully alive. At first, this sounds strange. Why would someone perform rites associated with death while still living? But the Linga Purāṇa is not really speaking about physical death. It is speaking about freedom. It is speaking about dying before death. The sages are told that one who performs this rite properly can attain liberation while still alive. The goal is not death. The goal is freedom from the fear of death. Throughout life, we accumulate identities. We become attached to our name, family, achievement, memories, and desires. We often build an image of who we think we are, yet one day, death takes all of it away. The wisdom of Jīvacchrāddha is that the seeker voluntarily begins that process beforehand. Instead of waiting for death to strip away attachments, an individual consciously loosens them while still alive. The body comes from the earth. The fluids come from water. The warmth comes from fire. The breath comes from air. And the space within comes from the vastness of existence itself. Nothing truly belongs to us. Everything has been entrusted to us for a brief moment. The ritual becomes an act of surrender. The seeker gradually returns everything back to its source. Every sense is offered to Mahadev. Every attachment is offered to Mahadev. Every identity is offered to Mahadev. Nothing is rejected. Everything is sanctified. Everything is returned. The Linga Purāṇa then makes a remarkable statement. Such a person is already liberated. Whether further rites are performed after death, that becomes secondary because the essential work has already been completed. The bondage that keeps consciousness tied to fear and attachment has already begun to dissolve. Most people think liberation happens after death. The Linga Purāṇa actually points in another direction. It says liberation begins while living. Freedom begins now. Awakening begins now. Birth and death continue. Gain and loss continue. Pleasure and pain continue. Yet, something within remains free. Perhaps that is the deeper thread connecting all these teachings. First, the seeker discovers that everything is Mahadev. Then the seeker learns to consecrate his life to that realization. And finally, the seeker surrenders the illusion of separateness itself. The many return to the one. The wave returns to the ocean. The seeker returns to the source. And there, beyond every philosophy, ritual, doctrine, and identity, stands Mahadev. Not merely as a god among other gods, not merely as a cosmic ruler, but as the very reality through which everything exists, the witness within every experience, the source behind every form, the consciousness through which everything is known. And perhaps that is why the sages repeatedly urge seekers to take refuge in Mahadev. Not because he exists somewhere far away, but because he's already the deepest truth of what we are. May Jagatpita Mahadev bless us all. Keep seeking, keep chanting, keep surrendering. Om Namah Shivaya.